Welcome back to TV5 News at 9. A legendary instrument and world-class violinist returns to Saginaw to perform in the return of the Red Violin. And this morning we have conductor and music director Fuad Fakori. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Of course. So this concert features celebrated violinist Elizabeth Pitcairn performing on a 305-year-old Stradivarius violin known as the Red Mendelssohn. Tell us a little bit about the history of this instrument and what makes it so unique.
Yeah, so Stradivarius was an Italian violin maker, and he worked in the, about between 300 and 350 years ago, and he had built about 1,100 of those violins and string instruments. The quality of the sound that those instruments have is just so unique, and when the audience will attend the concert, her violin will pierce through all the other instruments that will be performing with us on stage. It's just a terrific. I just performed with her in Texas with my other orchestra about a week ago, last weekend, and it was just a remarkable performance. Her sound is wonderful, and it's called the Red Violin because the varnish on that violin was red, and no one till this day can replicate that violin. With all the technology we have, they can't make a violin that makes that type of sound and resonates the way that violin resonates.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how many of these violins are still in existence today?
So we have about, out of the 1,100, they have about 600 to 650 violins left today. This particular violin, called the Mendelssohn Red Violin, actually, they made a movie called The Red Violin in the, I think, 1990s, the late 90s, and it sort of is based on this violin, the journey of this violin through centuries, and how it ended up with this young girl. And the young girl is sort of similar to Elizabeth Pitcairn, whose grandfather bid on the violin at Christie's when it went up for auction, and then gave this violin to this 16-year-old girl.
And today these are all privately owned by performers like Elizabeth, I'm guessing.
A lot of them are owned by orchestras or different collectors, but they do lend them out to soloists as well. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, Elizabeth will be performing one of the most beloved musical pieces for violin. Tell me, what do you think about this piece? What makes it so famous?
Yeah, so this is the violin concerto that she'll be performing, is the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto. And this violin is called the Mendelssohn Red Violin because at one point in time in the history of this violin, it was owned by the family of Mendelssohn. Felix Mendelssohn is a German composer that wrote this concerto that's one of the most beloved pieces of violin and orchestra concerti in the repertoire. And to know that there's that connection with the Mendelssohn family and the violin through Elizabeth is just a really remarkable experience.
Awesome. And you guys are listening to a little sample of it right now. The orchestra is also performing Bruckner Symphony No. 1. What can you tell us about this piece?
So that piece will happen. Elizabeth will perform on the first half of the concert, then we'll have an intermission, and then we'll come back and perform the Bruckner Symphony No. 1. That's a great piece of music that is just a real powerful piece of music. I always tell people that attend the concerts and when we perform Bruckner's music is almost the same. You could put that music to the soundtrack of Lord of the Rings. It's that type of real big landscape type of sound. So it's a wonderful, romantic piece, and I would just encourage people to attend and really experience Bruckner's music.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, once again, the Saginaw Bay Symphony Orchestra has a reputation for featuring nationally famous guest artists. Tell me, how do you go about selecting these guest artists every year?
So this is the biggest part of the job, is trying to figure out what works in Saginaw, how we can sort of interact and attract audiences to continue to come to our concerts. With Elizabeth particularly, she's been here twice. She came here, I think, in the early 2000s, and then she came back in the 2011-12. So she has a following here. She's well known. She's a good entity that's well known in the community. And I thought it would be wonderful to bring her back and revisit her here with our audience, have her revisit and really perform once again and sort of connect with our audience once again.
Most definitely. Yeah. Like you said, she already has a following here in mid-Michigan, so perfect choice. Yeah. And remind us again, how can people attend the return of the Red Violin? So
the concert is this coming Saturday at 7:30 at the Temple Theater. You can always go to the box office right before the concert and buy your tickets there. You can go to the website, the Saginaw Bay Orchestra website, and purchase tickets there, or call the box office at the Temple Theater.
All right, Mr. Fakori, thank you again for being here this morning. Once again, you can find more information, including where to buy tickets, in the hot link section of WNEM.com.